Hi guys, it's me, David. And today I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk to you about my favorite hyperfixation. If by now you have never heard of Dropout, what are you doing here? But also it was probably because you were, I don't know, popular in high school or something. Founded back in 2016 by known little guy Sam Reich, Dropout has quickly morphed into something of a phenomenon for retired theater kids everywhere. It's at this point in the video I'd like to clarify that I am a theater kid, and to prove it, this is a picture of me in my 8th grade production of Beauty and the Beast. Don't look away. You gotta look at it. I did this. We both gotta suffer with this now. But as we also know, if there's anyone that's nestled just slightly below the totem pole of popularity of theater kids, it's improv kids, which is exactly who we will be discussing today. So even though College Humor and Dropout started with a lot of scripted content, it slowly has morphed into exclusively improvisational content. After doing some preliminary research, I discovered just how many shows existed before Dropout even came to be. And as I started to look into one or two of these shows, I noticed something interesting. Not only the fact that a company that has been around for 20-something years now is still going, but if you go back and start to watch some of the old College Humor videos, it becomes clear pretty quickly how much of the Dropout identity has been there since the beginning. Just how much of the internet's history Dropout has been growing right alongside it, almost with it even. And most of all, I'm just wondering how the hell we got from here.
So I'm gonna bet I can't wear my nert.
What?
My not a shirt.
Okay, that's just not wearing a shirt.
To here.
We're the 5 best friends on the couch. Oh, we're 5 best friends on the couch. We're 5 best friends on the couch. 5 best friends on the couch.
So I had a thought that would end up costing me about 9 months of my time learning how to make a YouTube video and many nights of suffering. I'm going to attempt to do what scientists have told me is impossible for generations. I'm going to watch every single College Humor and Dropout show ever made and rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. On this very sick and cool board game map that I made myself, everyone clap please. And you may ask, why? I don't know. Hopefully at the very least you might find some new shows that you're interested in. I don't know, at the most maybe we'll figure out what makes this company special. But I already made the rest, so we're doing this thing. Before we can get into the rankings, I think it's important to note that College Humor was not a social media site for its first 4 years, mainly because that didn't exist. So I think a little context is essential here, a little history time if we will. But I know we all want to get to the video, so what I'm gonna do is speed run history time. So in 1999 at Wake Forest, 2 university freshmen, Josh Aberson and Ricky Van Veen, have an idea. While social media wasn't a thing yet, students were still sharing funny pictures and articles via email. So they decided they would take all those funny photos and videos, post them alongside ads, and the website they called what? College Humor. That seems pretty obvious. Fast forward just 3 months later, and they have 60,000 members on the site, generating them a cool $8,000 a day in revenue estimated. Fast forward 3 years to graduation, the site has continued to grow, so they decided to go all in on creating an ad-based revenue model, where they said they wanted to focus specifically on advertiser-friendly content aimed at the college demographic. Now, college demographic is definitely the keywords here, because I would not call the early College Humor ads friendly in any sense. I found a quote from one of the founders saying, "The Navy doesn't want ads on their site with girls taking their top off on Mardi Gras, but that's why people are coming to our site, to see a girl lifting her shirt on Mardi Gras." Didn't say they were good. Now, the actual website for College Humor at the time functioned very similar to YouTube, where users could upload their own content. It actually wasn't until 2004, 5 years after the company was founded, that they started making original content for the website. Fast forward 2 more years to 2006, and College Humor is doing really well for itself, with an estimated 6 million users per month and probably about $5 to $10 million estimated in revenue per year. And those numbers caught the attention of one, Riley C., you can boo, it's okay, who ended up buying 51% of the website at $20 million. For a comedy website. And most importantly to note, alongside this purchase, Sam Reich was brought on to be the head of original content. So with a cool $20 million stacked on top of the budget, they upped their production division and went ahead producing full shows. And what were those shows, you might ask?
Is the dirty little cuck ready to have his face fucked off, all to provide 3 minutes of content for Diet Quibi?
Jake and Amir was one of the first big successes to come out of College Humor, and to be honest, it's not bad. Like, there is definitely episodes that have not aged well.
You make me happy.
You make me nappy. No, you make me crappy. Oh no! Oh, I shat myself. There's shit everywhere, man.
It's a pretty straightforward sketch comedy scenario. Jake plays the straight man, Amir plays the wacky, kooky, out of style, can't take him anywhere character.
There's shit everywhere, man.
Which has been overplayed these days, but something we're gonna have to do a lot in these early videos is kind of just put ourselves in that mindset a little. But I will not be forgiving it entirely, so... Something that I do find interesting about this and wanted to note is that it takes place mostly in the CollegeHumor Office, which became sort of a staple among College Humor videos, as you'll see later in the Hardly Working sketches. And it's not the same vibe at all, but interesting to note that the through line has been there since the beginning. Despite how backwards it is in some areas, it actually feels weirdly ahead of its time though. I don't know, just something about this...
Okay, dude, sorry, but you have to stop posting on Reddit.
Relax. I only post cool and interesting stories. At most, one a month.
You posted 3,900 times today.
I said at most.
Then you're using that word wrong.
Feels like it would work as a TikTok sketch comedy. Were they ahead of their time? Or were they before it? Who's to say? But most importantly, I couldn't find a ton of info on it because most of the episodes are hidden behind Jake and Amir's Patreon. Aww. Sorry guys, I'm not paying for that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rate it right now and give it a 7 out of 10 because it doesn't try too hard and is decent for what it is.
David, the door's locked.
So remember how I said there was gonna be some bad stuff in the early years?
Hey, fine, I love Reverse Cowgirl. I just didn't think you liked when I saw your butthole.
Yeah, I didn't really like Full Benefits. As previously stated, the College Humor founders are big boob fans. And myself as well, so I was pretty excited for the sketch.
Yeah, I feel like you and I should stop hooking up for a little bit.
And then, the whole premise of the sketch is that they can't hook up? What the fuck? Luckily, all I can describe as a middle school version of Sam Reich comes in, and he tells them that they've got to stay late together to work tonight.
I'm gonna need you both to stay late tonight and finish that script.
Actually,
Food,
I have a
dinner,
dog. I have a
homework,
dog
TV
appointment.
show, lie.
Don't say lie.
Good feedback.
Which, not in the plans because they said that they couldn't be doing the fucky anymore. And not only does Sam Reich want these two kooks to hook up, the universe is sending them sign on sign on sign.
Okay, what if we scrap the beginning and...
And then eventually, they hook up. I know I am dunking on humor from a different time period. It probably would have been funny to me as a kid. At one point, Sam Reich comes in and screams, "Go football!"
I need that script on my desk by 8 a.m.
Oh!
Go football!
That's the sort of thing that would have made me fucking die laughing as a theater kid in the 2012s. But I cannot talk to 2012 me about whether he would have found this funny or not, and also he sucks, so... We're just gonna give it a 3 out of 10 and move on.
That's like multiple counts of kidnapping, dude.
TV RPG is a show where every episode they pick a popular franchise, be it book, movie, TV, and Frankenstein together a tabletop version of that franchise. It's hosted by Brian Miller, Eli Uden, and Caroline Page, and they add in a rotating guest every episode. And while it did do it first, it was a little bit too ahead of its time. It's more of a back room, we're letting you guys film this because it was a cool idea and we'll just post it and see where it goes kind of vibe. I personally chose the Scooby-Doo one because I like that funny little dog. And I actually really enjoyed how they ended up turning the franchise into a game. Like for Scooby-Doo, they had the stats be bravery, cartoon, or brains. And I know you're thinking, how is cartoon a stat? I had the same question. It was just attempting to do any cartoonish action, any riggedy trap, rigor mortis, I don't know, words. We also get Nathan from Drawfee as Scooby-Doo in this one, and let me say, inspired casting. And it was a really good time, but it mostly was because of those parody elements that were natural to the system. Like, I laughed pretty hard at the Scooby-Doo jokes that they made when they would roll to see if they could make a giant sandwich and then roll again to see if they could eat it.
I would also like to take this opportunity to build a sandwich.
Great. So we see arms flailing, cloud of dust, and just a gigantic sandwich forming of anything.
It's got all sorts of. There's like a soft serve cone, and
that's just funny, man. I don't know. But behind that, there wasn't a ton story-wise to keep you invested. They definitely did their best, but they only have 40 minutes. It's a new person every week. It's a new story every week, so it's one-shots, very simple one-shots within these universes. And maybe this was just a problem inherent to the Scooby-Doo episode, but I didn't like it because they had literally one person they met the entire story beforehand, who of course ended up being the big bad.
And it's, gasp, who would have guessed Old Man McGinty?
the only other character we met.
That just fucking blow your goddamn mind.
So I'm gonna go ahead and just say 6 out of 10 overall. It's really strong, and honestly, if you're into tabletop and parody, I would check it out. But for me personally, who's more into the story side of D&D and the strong action elements, I'm gonna have to say 6 out of 10.
What if we went in and got some of the really old problematic stuff that's deep there, deep in there?
Alright, enough of this actually interesting content. I came to CollegeHumor.com for one thing and one thing only, and that's boobs. And luckily for us, this next series is all about that. At least I can only assume so from the thumbnails of the most popular videos on the College Humor page. Whatever you do, don't go to Dropout's YouTube page and select sort by most viewed. Worst decision of my life. Well, I was looking through for an option and I found it's just boobs. It's supposed to be about when you're stuck in history class, and this cover suggests otherwise. Maybe I'm looking at this all wrong though. Maybe the boobs are the ones stuck in the history class. Maybe this is an animated boob that fell off of the woman attached to them, and now they're stuck because they don't got no legs. So let's keep an open mind, alright?
Wait, Jesus Christ, she's wearing a tank top. Girl with big boobs has such big boobs. When I describe him to Nate later, I should compare him to citrus fruits, tangerines, oranges.
It's the other option. Other gold nuggets in this video is lists of girls I want to be inside, and a list of various sexisms being committed. And the worst part is, it's from his POV. So now we're accessories to this crime. I don't want to go back to Horny jail. I tried to go through and I did find several that are not sexual in nature, but the majority of them are. At least the ones that are up top. Maybe there's other ones buried because no one cared because no boobs. This is definitely where we get the most college humor out of everything. Luckily things get better over time. And again, this was a different company, but not great.
From San Diego.
I did not change. It is not a different day. I didn't put this off for another week. You're crazy. So 7 was Josh Rubin's first original series at College Humor. If you don't know, he originated the Noise Boys on Game Changer, is on the first episode of Make Some Noise. If you don't know him, why are you watching this video? Maybe you're just bad with names. I am too. If that's the case, I'm sorry for yelling at you. Now, when I talk about how you probably have seen a College Humor sketch before, weirdly enough, this is the one you might have seen.
This is you in college, and these are the 6 girls you'll date in college. Were you ever good at sports? We don't know, but the daily 4 a.m. burritos haven't helped.
You okay?
Now, the word series is pretty loose because, again, It's the Wild West of YouTube, baby. We don't know what's going on right now. So the name The Six comes from essentially the six anything. It's be the 6 girls you date in college, the 6 roommates you'll have, blah, 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 blah. Now, there are 6 of them that feature Josh Rubin. One of them's got Mike Trapp, and it's great. It pretty much feels like his Smarty Pants interview. Overall, in terms of review of Josh's series, I'd say that they're all solid. Some of them are really good even, but it's something that, again, the humor's evolved too much for me to fully be able to judge it on the proper scale. But I think it's enjoyable for what it is. Listen, when it hits, it hits. When it misses kind of hard. So I'm just gonna go even on this one and say kind of like a 6 out of 10. It's above a 5 for sure, but I don't know. It definitely doesn't hit that 7 mark. So 6 out of 10. So here's the thing, Prank War is another show that suffers from the same issue most of Jake and Amir's content suffers from. I can't find it anywhere. Most of them are locked behind a paywall, and Daddy really didn't want to pull out his wallet for 2008 comedy content. There are a few episodes available on YouTube, but the thing is, I'm not going to talk about that, because the first thing that comes up when you Google Prank Wars is not the content itself. It is article on article about one particular prank gone wrong. And I want to talk about that instead, so we're going to do it. So I see all these articles on this prank gone wrong, so obviously I got to do my research. I got to be a thorough journalist. So at first glance, all you can see is that it's a proposal prank gone wrong. And essentially what happens is just a fake proposal prank where they're trying to get him to, freak out because they're setting him up to be, the big proposal, so he either has to propose or everyone in the stadium will hate him. And that's fine. I think I've seen Impractical Jokers do something pretty similar. Impractical Heads, get in the comments.
Get in the comments!
But it seems like a fine idea. You get the girlfriend involved, you let her know what's happening, so he freaks out, but she doesn't lose her head, and...
Dear Sharon, I love you forever. Will you marry me? That's from Streety Birds. What do you say, fans? Marquis, look at you.
Yeah, she didn't know. And it's hard to really place any blame in this situation on anyone but Jake and Amir for the way they set up this prank. But beyond that, it's an awful situation that I would never want anyone to be in. And I think that really killed a lot of the steam. Like, they were doing pretty good for the time. They actually got picked up by MTV at some point that ended up going nowhere, and I think this episode is really what did it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really look bad on anyone but them, mostly. So I can't really give a definitive answer on this one since I can't see the rest of the episodes. So we're just gonna go with a good old-fashioned 2 out of 10.
Top, okay? The top. We're gonna need a karaoke machine, Nerf gun, and flaming pin juggler. And none of that Ringling Brothers bullshit, alright? Get me Cirque du Soleil.
We're getting into more dangerous territory here where what I like might not be what everyone else likes and has a strong attachment to. Sharky waters, if you will. That one's for all my Degrassi heads out there. The All-Nighter was a series at College Humor where yearly they would spend just one night locked in the room and film as many sketches as they could throughout the night and post them onto the site as the night went on. And again, it just goes to show you how long they've been around, because that doesn't, you don't do that nowadays. But at the time, this was a really popular thing. People would stay up and wait for each new video to drop. But unfortunately, when you take away a lot of the creative time and throw it out there immediately in a culture where hashtag wacky randomness has become almost stale.
Cool. Well, we have a pretty busy night, so how about you just do your work quietly and try to stay out of everybody's way?
No problemo. Anybody got Purell? Looking for a squirt of Purell. Hey, is this anybody's pen? Is this anyone's pen? Looks like it's been slightly chewed, but I think there's still some life in it.
It just doesn't hit the same way anymore, unfortunately. There are funny jokes in there. I will not discount that at all. I think a lot of the ideas they come up with are really creative.
What? If you guys knew what was in that garbage, then you'd probably stop eating it too.
Not all food needs to be gourmet.
Gourmet? I don't even consider what you're eating to be food right now.
The sketches are absurdist, wacky, off the cuff, as you would expect from this exact event. But in a day and age where anyone can whip out their phone and record the first thought that comes to their head, and don't get me wrong, many do, the allure of rapid fire content is kinda out the window at this point. Because who knows, maybe if I'd been watching it back then, I would have loved it. Unfortunately for myself and them, sketch comedy wasn't really my interest at the time. If they'd pivoted to like Pokemon, I would have really been all over that shit, but oh well. Anyways, 5 out of 10. Next one, baby. Okay, we're finally into the good shit. We're not out of the woods yet. Sorry, there's still gonna be bad stuff, but this is a good one, for the most part. Hardly Working was College Humor's longest running sketch series, and I think what got a lot of people in. I can't say that for certain, but I can tell from watching it that this is really where you start to see personalities and characters on the cast forming. Because the whole concept is they're hardly working. It's about sketches they film in their office. Almost every single sketch is directly within the office where people are playing themselves. And I think it's important to note that this is a much bigger thing today than it was back then. I had an interesting experience watching this one. As with all of them, I would just start at the beginning, and that wasn't really an issue because most of these shows don't run longer than 6 seasons at most. And if they did go for a little bit longer, I like to splice in an episode or 2 from the later seasons. But this one I wasn't doing that yet, so I just threw on season 1, episode 1 of Hardly Working, and
Zoo-hoo, spoken.
Somebody make me stop! Excuse me, sir. I'd like to butt you a few questions.
Starkest tuna. Starkest tuna.
Zoo, Lucy.
it was really not good. And I've heard so much from people who keep talking about how Hardly Working is like the best series, or like they really want Hardly Working back. I just didn't get it. I was like, how is this what you want? That's just mainly because, again, of time humor. It changes, media changes, and also mainly to do with the fact that this cast was whiter than the bread aisle. It's all just white men who kind of look like Murph. There's one woman too. She also somehow kind of looks like Murph. Like, genuinely, I was so relieved when I got to the later years and I was able to understand why people actually liked it now. I can't really give a play-by-play of any of these episodes because they're so absurdist, and there's literally hundreds, I think probably thousands of them at this point. There's an episode where there's a wizard in the office and they have to ask it questions and it just gives the stupidest answers possible.
Here I have a stone of great power that can be any one of yours if you can answer my ancient riddle.
Tell me your riddle, wizard.
You cannot see me, yet I slay kings and level mountains. What am I?
I've got it. Your time.
Incorrect!
What?
I am an invisible crossbow with high-powered, explosive bolts.
Wait, what?
Well, it's a crossbow, so it can kill kings, but because of the explosive arrows, then it can also take down mountains, and plus with the invisibility feature, then it is invisible. So, you see, it's a thing.
There's a lot about the people. Grant's a total klutz is gold, comedy gold, certified comedy gold. There's a lot of viral ones in here too. Brennan's Defender of the Basic went pretty well. I would just have to recommend genuinely and truly that you go and watch a few on YouTube from the later years. Find something that features your favorite cast member and just give it a watch. They're so good. And it makes me sad that we don't get that level of content anymore from Dropout. And I know we can't because they need to pay people constantly every single day to show up and write sketches and film sketches like they were at College Humor. And now you can only really show up for the days you're actually filming. As for the rating, I think we're gonna go with an 8 out of 10. I feel like it's an 8 out of 10 because like every episode is enjoyable, but the series as a whole is, you go back to the earlier years, it's bad, and I can't. If we cut it off at like season 11 onward, I think we're doing great. That's like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, but including everything, holistic viewpoint, we're going with an 8 out of 10. Dire Consequences, while it does have the very strong positive of being the first one featuring Murph I've seen, is just kind of one of those shows on this list I watched and said, cool, and moved on to the next one. Because there's not a ton here in terms of coolness within the Dropout history or significance within its filming practices. It's just kind of there. Essentially, each episode starts with a challenge of some sort. I assume they script it and write who's going to win in the end because it was just like a really weird thumb wrestling match, which anyone who's played thumb wrestling as an adult knows that it's a bullshit competition. No one ever wins. It's just like you end up just gripping each other's thumb way too tight. So Murph loses the challenge, and this episode is titled Small Clothes, so you guessed it. He puts on small clothes. And that's sort of it, and I think it kind of encapsulates a lot of this early Dropout energy that I'm not as into. And maybe I'm just biased against the college humor videos that feature exclusively straight white men. Anyway, let's move on from this. It's a 4 out of 10, mainly because of Baby Murph. Okay, so for the first time, a show on this list is going to be one that most of you have probably seen before. I got a little cold also, I had to put on a sweater. So Adam Ruins Everything is a show where Adam Conover, titular character, takes a common known phenomenon and ruins it. Roll credits. And he ruins it by explaining why it's either a scam, or it's fake, or it's just a public phenomenon, or blah 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 blah. As you can tell, I don't like this show. And here's the thing, I liked it a lot when I was like 12 or 13. I actually remember because this was one of the shows that got picked up by MTV. But that's just the thing. I liked it when I was 12 or 13. First of all, it just kind of feels to me like the Adam is Superior show. And I know that's his whole shtick. And let me be clear, this is not at all a criticism of Adam Conover as a person, as an actor, whatever. I just don't like the show concept. And all of this isn't to say that this is a bad show. It wouldn't have gone as far as it did if it wasn't. The production value is really high, the writing is fast and funny, but I think this is just something that was produced out of a time where comedy was more apathetic, and the actually attitude, and not even in the fun game show sense, was a bigger trend online. The episode that I chose to watch for this series was one featuring Axe Murph, because I love Axe Murph. And the whole idea is Murph wants to buy a ring for Emily, but Adam pops up and goes, actually. And goes on to explain how the whole concept of diamond rings are a scam invented by the diamond industry, and diamonds are only worth anything because someone at one point said they were worth something. So with everything, bro. Like, yes, diamond rings are a made-up concept that's needed for marriage. Yes, the prices are arbitrarily set to be way higher than they need to be. But I think we, as a collective internet, spent so long doing this to every societal concept possible that at a certain point you just gotta say, I don't care if it's made up. It's important to me, or it's important to my partner, or it's important to this. If you guys both don't want a diamond ring, don't buy one. But if your partner really wants a diamond ring, are you just gonna go up to them and be like, babe, actually, William Fortell in 1400 set the price of diamonds to be way too high? No, you'll just get your shit rocked then. Like, there are other options to diamonds that are awesome. But who cares if it's made up? I know I'm very heated on this. I promise I enjoy Adam Conover as a comedian. I'm gonna say 5 out of 10. The production is really good and the content's overall good. I just really graded at the concept, so 5 out of 10. Oh fuck yeah, baby. It's Dino time. So for those of you who had a bad childhood and don't know what I'm talking about right now, the series focuses on essentially an office with dinosaurs. Oh yeah, and like one other little small tiny thing. It was released exclusively on Nintendo eShop. Huh? The one for the 3DS, not even like, that was just, why College Humor? Why? The good news here is that the show is really good.
Terry is gonna kill me!
Hey, Craig, I noticed that your report was absent from my desk this morning. Hi, Todd, how are you?
I can't complain. I will get them to you by the end of the day.
That sounds great. Hey, do you guys want to grab an early lunch?
Ooh, no can do, Terry. I brought leftovers. My wife made too much lentil loaf. I'm trying to lose weight now so I can put it back on when I go on vacation.
Yeah, alrighty then. I guess I'll just grab something around here.
Honestly, highly recommend going and giving these a watch. If you didn't even watch it in the old days, I think you'll still enjoy it. And if you did, you'll definitely enjoy it. I was laughing out loud.
Now back to Furry Force on Fox Kids.
Furry Force is something. It's like they had one idea and they just really went for it there. The only way I can describe Furry Force without getting demonetized is, imagine if the Zootopia abortion comic was toned down just a touch and then fully colored and animated. Is it worse somehow? Yes. Did the show still make me laugh a lot? Also yes.
Furry Force, the president has been kidnapped by Victor Vivisector.
You can count on us, General.
Persona transformation! No, wait for me to hang up first. Oh, how do you turn this thing off?
What the hell are you watching, Clarence?
It's government business, I swear!
Somehow it's kind of similar to Happy Tree Friends, but like really horny instead of really violent. So essentially the show just depicts a series of super personas that save the day through...
Stop right there, Vivisector!
Oh, God! Is the squirrel one pregnant? What the fuck?
It's time to get pounded by the Furry Force!
Drunk! No! That chance, perverts. You've fallen right into my trap.
Ow!
No! Hey, I command you to kill me!
Introducing Francis, the newest member of the Furry Force. I'll untie you in a jiffy, gang.
Oh, God! Oh, thank God!
Things. It really goes for it, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show this on YouTube. I'd say go watch it, but I don't know if I want to do that to you. If you're intrigued, I guess, but I warned you. Okay, as awful as it was genuinely a great execution of what they went for.
It's okay, Mr. President. We'll get you out of here.
I'm sorry, I can't be seen talking to you.
It was the funniest way they could have done that, and for that I will give it a 7 out of 10, because I did enjoy watching it. I just didn't want to watch any more after, and also felt like I needed a shower.
Next.
This sketch is icon status, okay? We had the grandparents sharing this one on Facebook. The reach was crazy. The way this sketch had a chokehold on the Facebook timeline still does. You could scroll your timeline on Facebook, you'll probably eventually end up seeing this video. Relatable meta internet commentary is something that became a little bit of a staple in the earlier College Humor sketches. And that's not to say that they invented it. I think everyone was doing it, but they were capitalizing. If you haven't seen the sketch by some weird reason, the title's the sketch, if Google was a guy.
Is today tomorrow New Zealand?
Yes.
Foot same length Europe?
What?
Inch same length Europe.
Gmail.com.
Oh, God.
What is Bitcoin?
butthole.
I think the more interesting aspect of this sketch is why it did well, and I have to believe it's because it grasped onto our collective fear or anxiety about the weird things we'd Google. I don't know, I think before Google it was like you'd only talk to your doctor or a trusted loved one about this, and now it's like, oh, I'm telling the internet about the rash on my ass cheeks. The internet's gonna know about my ass cheek rash, which makes it less relevant today because a lot of people will just pour their trauma out on Twitter for like 3 likes. So it doesn't hit as hard today, but I think this is one of the rare ones where the fact that it was a different period of comedy is less an excuse for it and more just a contextualization of it. So I settled on a good old-fashioned 8 out of 10. Moving on. Smurf. So I actually personally had never seen Hot Date before. I know a lot of people in the Dropout fandom have, but this was my first watch through of it. But I did have the fear that this was going to be one of those relatable humor sketches where it's like, top 10 things that happen on bad first dates when he talks too much. But I should have never doubted my queens. Both of them. My 2 queens. The very first episode is about them being out on a date, a hot one at that, and as a gift, Emily's gotten Brian a coupon book, but the coupons are all just
$3 off any large 2-topping pizza from Domino's. Will this actually work at a Domino's?
No, it's a love coupon, silly. So how it works is you buy a large 2-topping pizza, and I give you $3.
But not if I get a medium pizza or a 3-topping pizza.
Right.
1 free sensual massage. Not valid in the US or Canada.
Yeah, giving a massage is kind of boring, so I figured if we were in Mexico or Europe or somewhere cool, I could deal.
I was hoping to be able to provide some higher level insight to this show. Like, we all know Brian and Emily work really well together, but I was just thinking about why, aside from the fact that they're a couple, like what about their comedic timings works well, and I just can't. I don't know, man. They just got the sauce. Like, they play a very natural, classic comedic straight man and goofy guy, but I think it just really works because of how much Murph is into the silliness and often gets pulled into it because of that. I don't know, man. 8 out of 10. This one is very fittingly titled The College Humor Show. And this one's a little confusing in the order because it came out in 2009, but we're about at the end of the College Humor Shows, and that's because I didn't know this one existed. And I guess the rest of the internet doesn't know that this exists either because I found like no information on it aside from an IMDb page. But I also have a feeling that they wouldn't want it to be on there even if it was available. Unfortunately, this show is not available in my region, so we're a little bit out of luck there. I even have a VPN, and I put it to the UK because, you know, I feel like that's where a lot of things that aren't in the US end up, and it wasn't there either. So I don't know how you can watch this show if you can. Maybe that's the goal. I don't know. So the first episode, we got some relatable college humor. It's a beer pong tournament so that they can get their friend back. Episode 2, we continue that relatability where they only hire hot girls?
Huh?
As interns? Oh, no. And then if you wanted a second to breathe, you don't get it, because the next episode, Patrick and Streeter were accused of murder the day after their America's Hottest College Girl party. But it's even worse because that's a real thing. Using the power of the Wayback Machine, I checked out the College Humor site in 2005 when they were running this, and oh boy. Not great. Anyways, as with the other ones I can't find, I don't feel like I can properly rate this one, so I'm gonna give it just sort of like a 0 out of 10. Only facetiousness because all the episode descriptions are as bad as that. Hey, you were enjoying this too much. It's history time now. Now, around 2014, College Humor was doing good. Not great. In a few interviews I read at the time, most people thought it was an inevitability that College Humor would be going under. But one thing we talked about a little bit earlier is that College Humor was not independent like Dropout is now. From what I was able to read in interviews, the issue was mainly that IAC had pretty high earning expectations for what was, at the end of the day, a comedy website. And while from what I could tell, they definitely pulled in enough profit to keep going, it was never the amount that the client company was looking for. And because of that, for a long time, people kind of just went, it's gonna happen eventually, it's just a matter of when the plug gets pulled. But Sam Reich was not gonna go down without a fight. So in 2014, Sam Reich goes to then CEO of the company and literal billionaire Barry Diller. If you have $1 billion, why couldn't you just use the money to keep the company? Right? It pisses me off a little bit. And they discuss an ongoing problem that College Humor has had since its creation. As I said, College Humor was a site that was originally made just to get ad revenue. So, if you are a website, then your currency is internet traffic. And to say it metaphorically, what happened with the internet is like if Instagram and Facebook built a 16-lane mega highway directly on top of College Humor. I sort of grew up alongside, well, a little bit younger than the original College Humor era. At least to me, when I was growing up, College Humor was like the Adult Swim of the internet. Like, it was funny comedy content, but it was definitely stuff that our parents probably wouldn't want us to be watching. And in actuality, I can't really blame them for that when this was on their YouTube page at the time. But as it turns out, Sam Reich had a plan. Now, they had already tried to adapt with the internet 2 different ways before this. The first one being they got contracted by YouTube to make YouTube Red shorts, and also posting their videos on Facebook for the ad revenue, until it came out that both sites were artificially inflating their ad numbers to make people more likely to want to put their content on the service. You see, Sam Reich didn't only have a plan to solve one problem, he had 2. See, Dropout wasn't only becoming stranded as an internet company, they were also stranded as a production company. For any bigger shows, they pretty much relied on a network picking them up, because that was the only way that they would be able to guarantee funding from their parent company alongside the funding from a production company that could actually afford to do it. And if these shows ended up getting picked up by these larger production companies, they would often become theirs. And the talent associated with it that brought it to popularity in the first place would move on to a new company. Skilled College Humor writers would often end up getting plucked to bigger shows like SNL or Last Week Tonight, which is awesome for them, but it's making College Humor into just a training ground for bigger and better productions. So they thought, what if instead College Humor could grow with their actors, and were able to receive their revenue not from ads, but directly from the people who enjoy their content itself. And this could all be supported by the wide range of web series you've been producing beforehand. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the one, the only, Dropout.tv. I expected a bigger one. So, Plum Run was the first show to premiere on Dropout on September 28th, 2018. I want you to remember that date because we're gonna come back to it. It's a parody of TLC's show Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, which we all remember from the 2000s. And to start off with the good, I want to say that I loved this project when I watched it. Everyone in the cast is just kind of right in their wheelhouse. Josh is doing this big, wacky character as the Honey Boo Boo mom.
Mama? Yeah, baby.
Where do babies come from?
Dicks and pussies.
And funny enough, Elaine is actually on there as Honey Boo Boo, and I think she does an absolutely fantastic job with the performance. I almost wish we got to see more of her.
How diverse y'all be? Y'all ain't got no dumbs.
I got into fancy school.
She got them books. She got them books. She got them books.
So looking at the wiki for this show, I was able to find out that it's actually a revival of a show that happened 5 years earlier, based off a show that happened 4 years earlier than that. So if we're doing our math here, this is a revival of a show that aired 5 years ago that's based off a reality show that ended 4 years before that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone gave a shit about Honey Boo Boo after even 2012, maybe? That's the wild thing about memes nowadays. Excluding the Hawk-Tuah girl, if you go viral for a meme, you're gonna have about like 2 seconds of fame, not even 15 minutes. Yodeling Kid at Walmart would have had this show if he happened then. Just saying. Now, even though the parody's outdated, that doesn't mean the show or these characters are entirely unfunny. In the first episode, they have Grant actually staying over at their house, and they think he's a ghost just because he's so fucking gangly and white.
We's moved in with a ghost, and I didn't see him much, but when we did, I near done shit myself. Ah! He was so pale and skinny and just not a human being.
I'm a grad student at Harvard University.
10 out of 10. No notes, honestly. So then they try to get rid of the ghost, and they do, so they decide to throw a rager to celebrate. But uh-oh, the neighbors come knocking on the door. And it's actually pretty funny because the neighbors essentially threaten to call CPS on them if they don't put Plum in school. So Honey Boo Boo, Plum, does actually enroll in the school. So Mama decides to host a get-together for the parents. And then the parents of this like pristine girl who's running for student council comes and gets mad at them, and Mama decides that to get back,
My name is Plum. I'm 12 years old, and I'm running for president!
honestly, overall pretty funny show. I think it just really suffers from parodying a TV show that had already left the American zeitgeist like 6 years before that. But the bigger issue plaguing it, honestly, is the more stylistic production choices they make. Like, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo was obviously a reality show. And I thought it would have been funnier if they committed harder to parodying that reality style. Oftentimes they switch between a reality TV show parody and just doing an actual sitcom about this family. I think if they had committed more to doing those parody elements, having those confessionals, and keeping that consistent throughout, this could be really funny to watch in retrospective, but otherwise it kind of just fails on both fronts. So we're just going to give this one a 6.5 out of 10. I think this is definitely a step above average, but overall it doesn't have as much rewatch power as you'd want it to. So Cartoon Hell is one of the first shows made by Dropout that really starts to feel like what Dropout would eventually become. It features Caldwell Tanner and Nathan Yaffe. Love those white boys. In what I can only describe as a improv cartoon show. The setup is that their show got sold to the devil / their souls, I guess, and now weekly they have to create new concepts for the cartoon, whatever the devil requests for the week.
We gotta, I'm gonna make you guys make a new cartoon, and we will judge it appropriately. Every suggestion comes from a Dark Lord demon.
Sure.
This one comes from Jeter R. As an average college boy, I love weed, I love anime. Please draw weed anime.
Caldwell, I've got a good feeling about this one.
I can't quite do a play-by-play of this one, though, because there's not much plot to go along. It's essentially they get a request, they draw it, and they talk about what they're doing while they're doing it. And that's the show. And this is the first one I think I'm gonna actually get some backlash for, but I didn't like this one as much. I think if you're into drawing and you're into improv, this is going to be the best show for you to just get people watch and draw and make jokes. Because they actually create characters and a storyline. I think it suffers from a small issue that they don't feel even fully committed to the improv aspect.
So Nathan, we gotta get down to it.
If ever we're going to make a show that's gonna earn us our freedom,
yeah,
it's gonna be the weed anime.
I mean, it's peanut butter and chocolate, and then also weed. It's just a perfect combo.
You got weed in my anime. you got anime in my weed.
Almost as if I wish I could just see them doing it, because then we could get how it feels more like an improv show, and that loose, non-committal nature of the form wouldn't be as big an issue. Because right now you just have this sort of like fully animated environment and characters, but they're sort of just laughing and riffing being in hell, and the format's so loose that they only just kind of mention it every now and again.
Hey Nathan, how's it going?
You know, still acclimating to our new punishment environment.
How was your breakfast? Did you get anything?
I just went with the maggot puff.
I know I'm making fun of it a lot. It's actually pretty good overall. It's just not my thing. I almost wish they gamified it a little bit more so there could be more structure to the actual story of it all. We actually had a draw-fee episode of Game Changer that was entirely drawing challenge based. And after seeing that, I just wish that they had done that for this whole show, because it's so much fun to get to see them make these little characters or ideas in just a small amount of time. But on the show, they have like so much time and so little direction that it's just sort of art and riffing about whatever they want for 45 minutes, which absolutely could be someone else's thing. It's just not mine. Overall, solid and scared me less than Furry Force, so I'm gonna say a solid 5.5 out of 10. I was fairly terrified when I first saw this one that I was going to have to watch another Dropout show about sex. And the good news is we do not have to watch this one, because it's not on their website. Yeah, this is another Jake and Amir show where in the deal they negotiated, this one is not going to be on their platforms and it's hidden behind their Patreon wall again. And let's be clear, I'm not trying to lambaste Jake and Amir for getting that bag for their own content. I just don't want to watch it. So once again, best we're going to be able to do right now is an IMDb description. Ruby Jade is a single, selfish 30-something who wants to have sex. It's always about fucking sex. Okay, who wants to have sex more than anything in the world. Wow. Her empathetic dating coach, Josh Rice, helps her embark on a quest to find love with literally anybody. So originally I was like, oh, okay, so they're gonna end up together with the therapist. But then looking at the cast, I can see that Amir's the one playing Ruby. So I don't know if the joke is cross-dressing or the pronouns are just screwed up in that bio. But either way, we're just gonna stick with unranked for this one and keep it moving. When I said that Cartoon Hell was the first show that resembled New Dropout, I lied. It was also breaking news. Breaking News was also one of the first shows to premiere on the new Dropout streaming service, and I think it's the first one that really captured that lightning in a bottle that Dropout has, what makes everything about their shows special. The premise is that it's an improv news show. Well, improv doesn't even feel right to describe it because it's written. It's 4 performers reading off of cue cards, and whenever they laugh, a negative tally gets added onto their total, and whoever laughs the most is the loser of the episode at the end. Never stretching more than 8 minutes, always being extremely digestible. So for one, this show introduced the rotating cast that we've come to see in pretty much every Dropout IP since. And I think this is what really lends to the effect of Dropout feeling half reality show and half game show most of the time. With also a bit of YouTuber sprinkled in there, because you're not always coming back essentially for the show itself. If it were regular people on Game Changer each time, it might be entertaining, but it would be nowhere near as interesting as when it is 4 improv comedians who are all friends. You get to know which performers you like the best, and you get to know their styles of comedy. It's a great show, highly recommend go checking out if you haven't yet. They're still airing new episodes. Not every episode hits, it's more so your preference of performers and writers. But each one's guaranteed pretty much less than 10 minutes, always an easy watch. Oh, and true facts about Grant Anthony O'Brien, which came out of this, is like an all-timer.
Here to read my social security number. He's a field reporter named after the amount of people I performed oral sex on in one night in 2012.
Hello? I'm 50?
In one?
That can't be right.
There was a party that I went to.
So we're going to be giving it a 7 out of 10, and we are going to be moving on. Okay, I promise I'm not going to get too freaking worked up, hyperfixated. I promise I didn't have too much sugar, I promise, guys. Dimension 20 is at the highest level. A tabletop role-playing game show produced and broadcast on Dropout, and generally hosted by Brendan Lee Mulligan as the show's regular dungeon master. Most of the games use Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Long seasons featuring a core cast of characters in 17 or more episodes are interspersed with shorter side quests, featuring a rotating cast in 10 or fewer episodes. The most famous cast, of course, being the the lovely Intrepid heroes. And I really don't know what to say. I mean, Brennan Lee Mulligan has skyrocketed to now one of the most popular and thirsted after members of the TTRPG community. Which is hilarious objectively because, fun fact, he was not hired for that. Hell, he was not even hired as a cast member / performer on College Humor. He was hired as a fact writer for the show Actually, which will be next.
Being there, I applied. My name got put in a hat. I still don't know exactly by who. It might have been Grant O'Brien, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
My name got put in a hat for the College Humor cast member casting call. And I filmed stuff and I made a packet and I sent it in. I wrote a sketch about me being in the College Humor office and having applied for the job. And they were like, Brennan, why'd you apply for the College Humor job? And I was there and I was like, listen, I have no interest in comedy. Your building is filled with portals. And this was my way to get access. We never made that sketch, but that was the sketch that I applied with. And I didn't get it. They did not accept me. From someone at College Humor saying, do you want to come be in a sketch as just an extra or a background character? And I went, yes. And I got an email the next day saying, Mike Trapp has a web series called Actually. We're doing it as a long form show and we need a preposterous amount of questions. We hear you're a big dork. And I said, I am that.
But he was eventually brought on as a cast member at the exact same time that Dropout streaming started, and they needed as many shows as possible. So D20 was greenlit, and the rest is history. Hell, D20 was so big that it pretty much outgrew the College Humor fandom itself. When the company went under and they fired pretty much the entire company, they kept 3 people on payroll. You wanna know who one was? Mr. Brennan frickin' Lee Mulligan. Hell, it's wild because you can even see this happen in real time. Fantasy High's sophomore year was streaming, and in one episode they go,
Also, Dropout is alive and kicking. You can sign up for it, and you can get 25% off your first month of Dropout with the promo code TinyHeist. Not Lil Beans. That's not the promo.
And despite facing a literal pandemic, Dropout and D20 continued to grow to this very day. Personally, I think it took off mainly when Dungeons and Drag Queens came out. I think that was a strong incentive for people to dive into the community that had not yet. And that also lined up pretty well with when a lot of Game Changer clips were going viral on TikTok. We'll talk about that later too. Somehow, each season, they've seemed to keep on outdoing themselves. Maybe eventually the bubble's gonna burst and people will be less interested. If for some reason you're watching this far in the video and you've literally never seen Dimension 20, first of all, what are you doing here? I mean, you're welcome, but I'm confused. The place I would recommend to start is classic, everyone recommends it, Fantasy High freshman year. A lot of them are playing D&D for the first time and learning and asking questions as they go. But if you like something a little more story heavy, I personally started on A Crown of Candy. I had no clue what any of the D&D stuff meant, but the story was so good that I was so invested. I'll cut myself off there and give this show a solid 9 out of frickin' 10, baby. Hosted and... is it produced? I should look that up. Okay, I learned today that there is several producers on them actually, but Mike Trapp is one of them, so that's fun. And I will say that I'm a little biased to them actually, because around when I got into Dropout for the first time, I discovered it, and I also was driving a lot back and forth from college and home at the same time. And it turns out that actually is like fantastic for passing the time. It's important to note that around a year ago, Mike Trapp stopped hosting actually. I'm pretty sure he said in an interview that his intention was to focus more on his writing career, which is entirely fair because he's really funny. One of the consistent things I noticed while watching the older College Humor shows is that anything written by Mike Trapp is awesome. But essentially, the stewardship was passed from Mike to Iffy Nwadiwe. You're probably familiar with Iffy Nwadiwe if you know the Dropout universe. Again, you fucking know. But if you're not, Iffy is a recurring cast member. He is technically the reigning champ on actually. I don't think that's just why they gave it to him. I think it just works. But the way the game show works is we have 3 guests sitting on a couch, Mike Trapp or Iffy, depending on what era you're watching in, then reads out a series of statements. As they famously say, these are incorrect statements about franchises you know and love, and their job is to correct what is wrong about them. You must precede every correction with actually, and if you do, he will not give you the point. That was off the dome, man. I told you, I binged so much of that, it's just locked in here. Like a lot of Dropout's early shows, there was originally a low-budget version of this being produced at College Humor. And you can very clearly from the beginning see that they had the ideas of a show working there.
From Middle-earth to Midgard, nerds are passionate about a lot of things, but there's one thing they love more than anything else, and that is correcting people. This is Actually.
I believe this is maybe technically the longest running Dropout series. Interesting to note that within the Dropout fandom, there was a weird controversy that I very much disagree with. But essentially, Mike Trapp left the show. If he replaces him, and obviously people are going to be upset that their favorite show is changing. And it seemed to coalesce with an issue where the guests on the couch didn't always know a lot about the trivia they were being asked. I don't know. I watched a few episodes of the season and I did get what they were talking about purely because there was multiple episodes where they would ask a question and no one would buzz in.
Why Marika exiled them.
Actually, when Marika deprived them of grace, she was very loose-lipped. I don't know if people know this. Telling everybody's business, including her own. And so to all of the bards in the land who are then going to the taverns and singing the tales, praises of Marika, they were telling why she exiled them. So everybody and their mama would know why the deprived were exiled from grace.
That is incorrect. Actually, as I read through this and break this down line by line, I am coming to the conclusion that the depraved are not meant to ascend. That is incorrect. Okay, I try. Fiona.
Actually, the depraved are not descended from the first Elden Lord, Godfrey.
That is incorrect.
Haven't played this game.
Which is totally fine for a few questions. It happens sometimes. You're not always going to know the answer to every single question. But when it's multiple in a row, I just lose the appeal a little bit. But I'm happy to report that this has kind of become a non-issue this season. The couches this season have been much better put together overall. People have known about the franchises, people have known the questions. It's feeling like they're getting more into the groove of things, which is entirely to be expected. It's literally their first year. Give them a break. So, those are my thoughts overall. It's an awesome show. Would highly recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. We're going to be giving this one an 8 out of 10. If you don't like it, make your own video, Buster. This takes so long, I don't think you wanna. I'm debating if I even wanna right now. I freaking love What the Fuck 101. What the Fuck 101 is an animated show and voice acted by a lot of College Humor cast members. It focuses on a group of 5 kids and their teacher as they go through the weird, more macabre, or just downright terrifying parts of history. And once I saw that the show was made by Mike Trapp, I think everything kind of clicked for it. I don't know, that dude gives me the vibes of like an extremely efficient Jigsaw. Now, the whole cast you'll probably recognize except Mary Pat Gleason, who wonderfully plays the teacher. Again, for the plot structure, imagine a really fucked up magic school bus. Like, really fucked up. Like, imagine if, like, I don't know, Mike Trapp or someone like that made it. Like, that level of fucked up. So the very first episode starts with the kids sitting in detention, their teacher's there, and Mindy's saying that she doesn't deserve to be there because Jason was the one who was cheating off her test.
He copied off me! I spent hours studying for the exam and Jason cheated!
I see.
Good strategizing, Jason!
What?
I got the idea when I saw how hard the questions were.
You shouldn't praise him! He's a parasite!
Am not.
So anyway, the whole class starts fighting, and eventually the teacher breaks it up by telling them that, in fact, Jason's smart for doing that. In fact, probably smarter than all of them, and nature and history can prove it. So to prove their point, they magic school bus style again. She shrinks them down and takes them off to different insects and animals, who all show, in very graphic detail, that parasites are always the ones who win out in the end.
Hello, students.
Dude.
Are you here to learn about oceanic ecosystems? Let me help. In the ocean, there's...
eating louse. Simulthoa exigua.
I don't know. Really simple concept, but I really enjoy a lot of the jokes. There's one bit where Jason continuously thinks he's being taught a lesson, that by being shown how horrific and horrible parasites are, he's supposed to learn to not be one himself.
Okay, I get it. Parasites are gross and I should work hard instead of leeching off of others. Can we please go home? All this shit is freaking me out.
No, that's not the lesson at all. What? Look.
Anyway, overall, it's really well produced as a TV show, and Mike Trapp is in his freaking bag in the writing room there. There's different episodes where they go throughout history. I've watched pretty much all of them now and would highly recommend it. We're sticking with a solid 8 out of 10 on this one. Total Forgiveness is a masterpiece. Part reality TV, part game show, all soul-crushing. The process of Total Forgiveness actually begins on the very first episode.
Yes, so.
We have a good idea. We just wanted to start filming it now, so we have some, like, documentary style before they were famous footage.
Allie and I both have a lot of student loans.
Crippling.
And we work at a comedy website focused on college. So we have an idea for you.
The company comes up with crazy things for us to do, and if we do them, you give us money for our student loans. It's like, student loans are such a nightmare. The next 20 years for us are just like kind of shitty every month, barely scraping by, and we're saying like, what if you, like an accordion, push that into just 4 months of like actual shitty, scary living, and then we're done.
That you're calling attention to the student loan problem in a way that's very personal to the both of you, and in a way that's really loud. I think my initial concern would be that if you're putting me in the position of being your torturer, like I have like a legal and ethical responsibility to you guys as your boss, and it's tough to put me in the position where I'm like, you know, inflicting this kind of pain on you. You know what I mean?
But unless, what if you guys challenge each other? So like you took turns giving each other a challenge, and then if they failed, then the person who challenged gets the money, so it kind of raises the stakes a little bit.
So on the one hand, you're pitching a show that's like literally to do with ruining your lives. And you're pitching a show that's to do with like paying off your crippling student loan debt. This is either a terrible idea on your part or like a brilliant idea. And I guess I'm like eager to see which it is.
Interesting. That sounds like a yes from Daddy.
So the prize pool is collectively split each week, where if each of them complete the challenges, then they split it amongst each other. But if one of them fails their challenge, then the other person gets all the prize pool for that week. The prizes start off small, but as they keep going, they can eventually earn up to $5,000 each on the final episode. And if you're keeping your calc out,
Calc is calculator for short, chat.
that's a total $10,000 that's available for one of them to win the final game. If you haven't watched this show yet, I am begging you to skip ahead to this timestamp. Since this is happening in real time, you genuinely just need to experience it alongside them to fully get what's happening. I won't waste time explaining what happens to you guys because I know that you've seen it by now. If you haven't, frickin' skip ahead, timestamp motherfricker. But I'll share my takes on what happened. I know there's a lot of people that got mad at Allie originally during it, because I will say Allie was pretty brutal, but at the same time, they were just playing the game. So I can't blame Allie too much when Grant was the one not exactly coming up with hard enough challenges. The one exception to that I will say is the yard antiques, the sale one, where Grant has to sell all his items. Because the money level that they set on that was just fucking impossibly high. Like, there was no way Grant was going to be able to huck all his shit for that amount of money in that amount of time. And then when it was over, he just had none of his things and also didn't have any of the money. That was the one time I maybe blamed Allie a little bit, but even then, it's not even so much on them as it is production for allowing it to happen. Like, their job was to make a challenge they thought Grant would lose. The only other thing I wanted to address is that I've seen people talking about how they want a second season of the show, and let me just say, No. Only reason this show doesn't feel so bad that it's unwatchable is because it was Allie and Grant coming to Sam with this idea. I think it's different when they're the ones coming to and creating this idea that helps them pay off their student loans, versus it feels much more predatory when it's a show pitching to other people to come pay off your student loans to make content for us. Anyway, for right now, this show needs a ranking, and we're going to be going at a full 9.5 out of 10 for this one. Highest yet. So good. Haven't seen it yet. Please do. The rank room was R.I.P. The fact that we don't have a currently hosted show by Katie Maravich is frankly a travesty on Dropout. But when they first made Dropout and they needed everyone to be making shows, the rank room was Katie Maravich's first show that she made. So essentially, Katie Maravich and 3 other comedians from Dropout get together and discuss a topic, rank them, if you will. Topics can range from what is the coolest accidental death, or what is the worst tattoo to get. Each person comes in with 3 options and they go through them one by one, and at the end they rank and eliminate each one until they have a number 1 winner. It is really funny. I think Katie Maravich's style of humor is so underrated. However, this one does fall into a trap that I think we're gonna see sometimes consistently throughout some of these earlier Dropout shows, and even continuing throughout today, where it's a little too reliant on the cast rather than the structure of the actual game itself. By this, I mean some episodes are really good, but it's only because the people on them are really funny. I don't know, I think the skill I'm talking about is just like a little higher level where they can make anything funny.
Let's begin ranking.
Yes, so cool. Oh,
Fantastic.
did you do that with your mind?
I did.
Wait,
I
can
did
you
that with my mind.
can you make it go back?
Yes.
Do it.
Blue.
Whoa!
Now let's start ranking.
That was disappointing.
I'm gonna start with you, Jess.
Versus needing to be in a game where it makes them funny. Does that make sense? I think the show could have gone on much longer if it didn't come out when Dropout was, going entirely broke. Which is really sad because it's why a lot of these shows got canceled in the first place. So I think I'm gonna overall give this one a 7 out of 10. I really wish it had more time to flourish and we got a modern version of this maybe. I don't know. The fact that we don't have a Katie Maravich game show on Dropout right now is astounding and also a crime. I want answers and I want someone to be held guilty and send them. Oddball within the Dropout discography. I believe it's the only TV show whose format wasn't a mockumentary or documentary or just reality TV show parody. And I know that sounds hypocritical because it definitely is a parody of Star Wars. I mean, obviously. It's basically making a sitcom out of the Stormtrooper work experience, which is pretty funny in and of itself. And you do get some characters and drama and typical Star Wars / D&D nerd storylines, all amongst the cast of characters we've known to grow in love.
A ticket! Ticket 1147209. Whew, servicing now.
That's us.
But I'll just give you a rundown of the pilot episode so you get the general gist. Episode 1 introduces us to our cast of characters. Allie's a little lazy, Ralph is a try-hard, Adam Conover is Adam Conover. We then meet Walmart version Darth Vader.
Starting now, the best trooper of the week will get the honor of guarding the Legion's most cherished object, the orb.
I do love this little parody to sci-fi where there's an all-powerful element and we just have no clue what it is. Anyways, Allie's chosen by Kroger Darth Vader pretty much at random, so for a reward, they get to guard the door.
And if we stick together, there is nothing we can't do.
Oh my god! Wimbledon! He's fucking dead! Insane! I thought he was like a main guy!
Yeah, that part got me a little bit. I'll give him that. It's pretty hilarious to have Adam Conover be introduced as one of your main characters and then kill them off the first episode. The only issue was I think that they invested pretty heavily in the plot, and the plot was kind of my least favorite part of it. The parody element's pretty funny, and again, I repeat, I need more scripted content on Dropout TV. I really think they could thrive with the group of comedians they have now and sort of the understanding of more modern humor that they've gotten. But for this one, I think I'm just gonna say a 6 out of 10, and let's say a 6.5 out of 10. It's good with the parody elements, but ultimately Star Wars humor, I think, has fallen out of reference for me as a Gen Z guy. So Paranoia is essentially a regular game that got turned into a drinking game that has now been turned into a weed game. The game itself is actually pretty complicated.
Each round, the stoners will select a player to eliminate from the game. The other players include 3 square citizens, a narc, who can find out whether a player is stoned, and a medic, who can choose 1 player to protect from elimination. They can even choose themselves, as long as it's never twice in a row. Hidden in the group is 1 coder pretending to be high and taking the heat off the stoners to help them win.
But if you've ever played Assassins before, then it's pretty much that. And I know I've spent a lot of this video shitting on things that have simply fallen out of style, and I'm gonna keep doing it. But I enjoy weed overall, so I was excited for this game because weed. It feels like it should be over the second they walk in that door.
Now the next 5 days are gonna be hell. 2 people at this table are in even deeper trouble because they'll have to do this while high out of their mind.
Maybe this is just me. I don't know. Maybe to other people it's not as obvious. But just looking at this, how can you not immediately know who the high guy is? Even if we put that entirely aside, the show goes by playing games to figure out which one of them is the high person based on their answers, and the high people gave the most high answers I've ever heard in my life.
A bat in the day. I got here and it was like, what's easier to draw, a human body or a bat body? So I did the bat body. But then I was like, I'm not like a bat, so daytime bat.
Great. Good job.
You know, I really think weed legalization hurt weed media the most. Like before, if you smoked weed and you talked about it all the time, you were kind of like the cool dude. Because you were actively doing something illegal, something that could get you in trouble. But now that it's legal, if you start to talk about it too much, I feel like you're just giving wine mom energy. Disregarding that, I had a hard time believing that these people were actually playing the game at all. I don't know. It was kind of giving me the vibe that they all knew who the stone person was, but it was the first episode, so they didn't want to say because then the episode would be over immediately and they wouldn't have a show. I want to be very clear, by the way, if somehow by some miracle someone at Dropout watches this video, that does not mean that we do not want weed/stoner content, okay? I don't know, I just think with Allie and Jacob, you have the perfect opportunity to have a host duo that could do a weed show so well. Either way, I feel like they did not put a lot of effort into keeping secret who the stoner was. They ripped joints with the fattest clouds, and they didn't change clothes. I know they reeked, and I can see they didn't even put in eye drops. Anyway, 6 out of 10. Alright, we got a second Katie Maravich show. Still none currently on Dropout. So Kingpin Katie was written and directed by Katie Maravich. Roll credits. It was her first scripted show on Dropout and showcases her entirely unintentional rise as a crime lord. Like all Dropout content, we're starting in the Dropout office, of course.
My name is Katie Maravich, and I have a cocaine problem.
Yeah, obviously. Can we get back to the pitch meeting?
Where Katie declares to the office workers that she is giving up cocaine for good. We get a very typical College Humor meta scene where they're in the College Humor boardroom pitching sketch ideas. I do want to take a second to appreciate this fake whiteboard full of new Dropout show ideas. More importantly, Katie's quitting cocaine. But there's one issue to the whole thing. She's got a whole brick left. So we then see Katie going to try to return the brick to her dealer. Inherently hilarious by itself.
What are you crazy? You can't return drugs.
Yes, I can.
No, you
Yes,
can't.
I absolutely can. I have a receipt.
You wrote that.
This happened.
Look.
So, Katie can't return the drugs. Her next best option, of course, is selling the drugs. So she hits up the club, brick of cocaine in tow. And despite there being a bunch of other dealers there, particularly male dealers, she ends up selling to pretty much every woman at that place.
I love that you come to me. And we don't have to deal with some creepy, aggressive guy.
What these bitches buy from me?
I really love buying from you, like truly. I don't even normally buy drugs, but you like make it so fun.
Oh, thank you. I'm making so many new friends.
But one Mr. Creepy Dealer guy has an issue with Katie selling that much, so he drags her off to go see her boss, Gus Fring Parody.
What she was doing, like totally clueless.
I had some understanding I'm not a total idiot.
Okay, shut up, Katie. The point is, clearly this person is no drug dealer. Just look at her.
What does that mean? Excuse me, I did sell like $5,000 worth of cocaine in 1 hour, so.
Which was a mistake, like you said earlier. I mean, she couldn't do it again. She wouldn't know how. Right, Katie?
No.
What do you mean, no?
Do you think you're a better drug dealer than I am?
What are you doing?
Because you are not. You're always late, you're so rude to me. You never want to hang out. I have people texting me left and right wanting more drugs. I am 10 times the drug dealer you are. Don't tell me to shut up.
Say no more, Katie. You're hired.
Should've just let her keep girl bossing, man. You'd be alive. I don't know what to tell you. I think I can confidently say this was the first show on Dropout that actively made me as invested in the story as it did in the comedy that they were doing. It genuinely could have been on a major TV network, but unfortunately it was on Dropout in 2018, which is like being on the Titanic. And if you don't take my word for it, look at this IMDb review. They gave it a whole 7 out of 10 stars and said, an epitome of a female comedian. Quirky with a great talent, Lady Gaga meets Bambi. Listen, just because you're right doesn't mean you have to say it. So we're gonna take that IMDb review and add 1 onto it to give this an 8 out of 10. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. Like, genuinely, if I could recommend one, like, lesser watched Dropout show to people, this would be it. We are entering dangerous territory here, folks, because we are entering a show that a lot of people on the internet really like, and we're also entering a show that I really did not like. Okay, Gods of Food. What is it? Well, it's essentially a mockumentary in the style of Chef's Table, if you've seen that, following weird and unusual chefs. Maybe there's better episodes, but I watched the first 2, and I just didn't enjoy them that much. I think personally that's because they put way too much focus on the character they were creating rather than the actual plot points they were developing for the show. The first episode, for example, is about a food truck chef who makes exclusively grilled cheese and has the ego of Gordon Ramsay, despite the fact that he makes exclusively grilled cheese.
Noise. I hate society telling me what to do.
Fuck you, bag.
Throughout the beginning of the story, we spend some time, in my opinion, way too much time, getting introduced to the chef and seeing how he interacts with the world and people around him.
Poppers. Let's push the caprese salad, man. That shit's going bad. It's super sour. What'd you say? You talking fucking shit to me? We're firefighters here, man. We're putting out fires. Maybe I don't understand what it means to be a fireman, okay? Maybe I don't know what that entails. Oh, I'm so sorry. You think I have time to talk to fucking firefighters?
I think this is a good time to talk about another semi-common trap that we see in the post-college humor early Dropout days. At least for the 2 I saw, it seemed like these would work really well as 3 to 5 minute sketches. And when you have to stretch a 3 to 5 minute concept to 20 to 25 minutes, it gets pretty thin. Like, it wasn't until 10 minutes into the show that any sort of plot point was introduced. And that plot point is that the chef is trying to make a grilled cheese with more cheese. It does sound really funny on paper, but when you have to watch 10 minutes of nothing to get to that, it just kind of doesn't feel good. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, He wants to put more cheese onto the grilled cheese. Everyone's like, oh, it can't be done. It's too much.
But what he saw that no one else saw was, what if we put more cheese on it?
More cheese? How's that gonna work? What's that gonna look like? Is it even possible?
Can't believe he did it. A true king of the food truck scene.
And that just sort of goes on for 20 minutes. At the end of the day, it just feels like 20 minutes of the same bit of food truck chef has ego of fancy chef. I think something they could have done to increase the longevity of the bit is not have the world around him buy into this. You don't have to change how he thinks of himself, where he has this gigantic ego, but having the customers and the people in his family and his life just sort of be like, what the hell are you talking about? You literally make grilled cheeses. What? I don't know what you're talking about. Why is there a documentary happening about him? And on top of that, the rest of the criticisms are food truck bits that have been done to death at this point. And I don't think I can clock that too much because those bits just went out of style because they were overdone. I don't know what to tell you guys, man. I just didn't like this one. If you did and you have like a favorite episode you think I should watch, then absolutely send it to me. But for right now, we're just gonna say a 4 out of 10. It felt appropriate to change the TV in honor of the masterpiece we're about to discuss. So sit down and lock the frick in, because it's time for a game changer.
Get ready for a game changer!
Game Changer is a phenomenon. Essentially a marriage between game shows, game theory, and Sam Reich's twisted little fucked up brain. I'm not going to spend too much time going over the structure of Game Changer, one, because it absolutely doesn't have one.
Let's begin, Becca.
Oh God, I'm so nervous.
How many pistachios can you open in 1 minute?
This door is straight up locked. They don't want us getting out, dude.
Is this the show? Get ready for a game changer.
No fucking way.
Putting the Pan and Peter Pan complex, it's Grant O'Brien. I'm gonna be a little boy forever. Grant, sorry, could you actually keep standing right there for me? What is this? This is Game Changer.
2, for the sake of this video, I think it's way more interesting to examine how Game Changer fits in the history of Dropout, as it really does feel like an amalgamation of all the things I've mentioned that make a College Humor / Dropout Now show. And on top of all of that, the changiness of it all means that each episode is really fresh and exciting, which is not to overlook how good the participants are. Because as Sam Reich said in an interview with Vulture, it's part reality show, part game show, talking about how people come for the personalities. Dude, let me tell you, the ego high, writing high, I don't know, whatever I had, because I had written that sentence earlier in this script before the Vulture interview came out. Don't fact check to see how long it took me to write this script. Don't do it. And I don't think it would be too far a stretch to say that Game Changer saved Dropout, essentially. The number of people who I have mentioned that I am a part of the Dropout community to, who will then go, oh yeah, I think I've seen that before on TikTok. It's like a 95% hit rate. And I think D20 really drew in a lot of people who were already into tabletop role-playing games, which is not a small amount at all. But I think Game Changer was really the piece that got people into it that weren't already into it. Pre-out-of-the-closet nerds, if you will. Sam Reich said in that same interview that they always intended the improv content to be the clippable stuff that then drew people into Dropout in general. And once in, they would stay for the scripted content. Maybe it's hindsight speaking, but in what world is the show that draws people in not the show that then gets them to stay? Not even the sense that like only people who sign up because of those clips would watch Game Changer, but what world would we be drawn in by improv content and then be like, ooh, scripted content, hell yeah, fuck you, improv. I don't know. It worked out, and Sam saw the numbers that Game Changer TikToks were doing, and he chose to pivot and pivot hard. And it makes sense. Scripted content is expensive to make. Improvisational shows are cheap. You don't have to hire any writers. You can have one consistent set, all while doing higher numbers on social media than your scripted content has ever done. I don't know, everyone here probably knows Game Changer, so I'm just trying to share some of my own unique thoughts on the matter. My last one is just how telling it is that the majority of new shows that we've gotten from Dropout have been Game Changer spin-offs. I don't know if it's intentional that they sort of get to use it as a testing ground for game shows, but either way, it works really well. But We still got a lot to go, so we're going to talk about those shows later. For right now, we're going to give this a perfect freaking 10 out of 10. If you disagree, I don't know, bite me. We return to the world of scripted content.
Ultramechatron Team Go. It's a giant body punching robot of war, but it can only be controlled by the chosen four. So now they're working fat and live together in the Ultramechatron. Ultramechatron Team Go.
This was another one of those shows that was released along the first wave of Dropout shows. It's a Power Rangers parody, and we open with the tiniest little village you've ever seen. I do love this reference. I tried to look up what the style is. I couldn't find a definitive answer. I could only find it being called basically the Godzilla style, where you have humans in costumes and a little set, and they walk around and pretend they're big. It stars Katie Maravich, Reka Shunker, Ralph something, and Mike Trapp. And that's an all-star cast, frankly, so I'm gonna be excited for this one.
I don't know what's going on. None of my punches can connect.
That's the power of the baby boomer.
He's somehow always out of touch.
If you want to defeat me, maybe you should work harder.
Oh my god, Dropout, I thought we were done beating a joke to death a billion times. I thought we were through with that. I thought we moved on. Okay, I'm not gonna react too much because I know I am not the target audience per se. The target audience is millennials.
We are young.
Something you could sort of see breadcrumbs of in the early Dropout days is the fact that I don't think they thought Gen Z would be that into it. I think they expected their CollegeHumor fan base of more millennials to follow them over. The whole plot of the episode features Mike Trapp. Yay. And the whole thing is about how Mike is lazy and he's not a good team member because of that.
Hey, see? If I weren't high, I'd be really stressed right now.
Brody, you promised us before that you would stop smoking in the middle of battle.
Vape? That's
no,
lame.
I don't want you to vape.
And everyone else is mad at him because they're losing fights because of that. Until the final fight, when Mike Trapp is too stubborn to be controlled by mind control.
Sarah? Sarah, wake up!
Oh shit! You fall under its control if you gaze into its eyes!
Prove myself, prove myself, it's gonna be good.
No,
it's just gonna take a second, it's just gonna take a second. It's just gonna take a second, it's gonna be so quick.
I said 3.
Huh?
Brody?
Oh shit, Brody!
Brody, what's happening?
No. I don't wanna.
And at the end, the only lesson he learns is that he was right.
I'll tell you what happened. I saved the day, and it's all thanks to the awesome power of not following directions.
But also giving directions.
Yes.
Well, the important thing is that I'm a part of the team. I really belong here, guys, you know? Because teamwork isn't about working hard all the time. It's about doing the bare minimum until somebody shits the bed. And then you do a little damage control, and then you can go back to coasting.
That's not what teamwork is.
Sure it is. I mean, how would you know? You were sleeping on the job.
So I do appreciate this subversion of expectations where you think it's going to end in Mike learning a lesson of some sort, and instead he just reaffirms his earlier beliefs, and everyone's kind of annoyed at that. I think if I watched the entire series, I watched like the first 2 episodes, then I would like this show more. But for the time being, I only watched the first 2, so we're gonna rank it on that and say a solid 6.5 and keep it moving. Where the F is Sarah Cincinatti is Reka's first game show. Luckily, as we see later in the history of Dropout, she does get Smarty Pants, which is amazing and we'll get to. Don't rush me. But the reason I say luckily is please don't kill me. I didn't like this one either. Listen, I know I sound like a hater with 2 back-to-back mediocre reviews, but let's zoom out.
Wait, what? What am I looking at? What is that?
Charlie, that's not Earth, right?
Dude, that's completely...
Katie Maravich.
That's 100%...
Katie Maravich.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That can't be real, right? That's not...
Where the F is Sarah Cincinatti is essentially a trivia game show that is a parody of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. And I'm gonna be real with you guys here. I have no clue how Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is played. I tried to look up the games wiki to give it a chance, but the original show rule list is like longer than Ticket to Rides, which I didn't like. Do not bring that out on a game night, I'll get mad. But the way Where the F is Sarah Cincinatti would work is that the players would be given hints about where she is in the world, like a story that is going along with it. And then it would also be a fact about the location, so they'd have to guess the location based on the story plus fact that they were given.
Guys, I was en route to join my new Harvard Law by Cedric's a campaigner for a European slaycation, and flying makes me like cray-cray, so I smoked a ciggy in the bathroom. And I'm not an engineer, so I didn't know that the smoke would cause an emergency landing, and now they've evacuated us, and I don't know where I am. Can you please help me get my bearings so I can find my boo thing and get the beaver damming I deserve, please?
Which is objectively funny. Circling back to that earlier topic, you remember how I said I was going to circle back, right? Only bringing this back to say that this was originally a children's show that ran from 1991 to 1995, and I feel like that kind of just strengthens my theory that this was made for millennials. Anyway, ignoring the fact that it's mainly a reference only millennials get, I think Reika is a fantastic host and comedian overall. I don't think this format shows her off well. I don't know, it's something about the intellectualism mixed with the silliness doesn't quite hit in the way that it gets delivered.
Who was the man?
His name is Cedric the Campaigner.
Wow.
And that's a joke for no one.
I enjoyed it.
Brennan has said something once about Reika in that
Reika is brilliant, but is fascinated by dumb things.
And that makes a lot of sense for this show. I think it's a intellectual show that's about a very stupid person. But it doesn't come together in the way that I think they imagined. So we'll see later in the list. Smarty Pants, I think, does a much better job of coalescing these two things. But for right now, this isn't Smarty Pants, so I'm gonna have to rank it as itself. And I'm gonna say a 4 out of 10. I know that's so low compared to some of the other ones, and I don't hate this show. This is just one of the ones I actively did not want to watch another episode of, and we haven't had that for a while. Okay, before the Reika fans crucify me, I need them to know that I love this show. Erotic Clubhouse is a continuation of the earlier Erotic Book Club series. Essentially, each episode they take a different intellectual property, and together they write a fanfiction. Or smut. I don't know, it depends on your verbiage. I decided to watch one that's set in the Batman universe, and very thankful I did because, wow. Batman, specifically the Michael Keaton one, and Michael Trap Alfred. Yes, Michael Space Trap Space Alfred.
Is this rude to Trap?
I would be so horny for this. I bet he has a boner right now.
Are investigating a crime, and then we cut to Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, and then we cut back to before Poison Ivy got there when Harley Quinn was masturbating. Really, what other writers are willing to do it this boldly? Okay, that was a little bit too much just for that, so we're not going to go over everything in this. 1, because it's a lot, and 2, because it's a lot, but in the other sense. Not to say that it isn't hilarious, because it absolutely is. It's just really freaking horny, man. Like, you either gotta watch this alone or someone who you have a predefined agreement with about these things. I think the format is really interesting, and it also really gets to show off both Reika and Jess and their skills as improv comedians and writers and nasty little freaks. I would love to see something along the lines of this again, because I think a lot of the Dropout podcasts kind of got lost to media changing. Anyway, giving the show a score, we're going to say 7 out of 10. Okay, now that we've caught up to a lot of the modern day shows, we got Dirty Laundry. Dirty Laundry is hosted by Lily Dew as she goes through a stack of secrets about 4 comedians who all know each other generally well most of the time. And each secret is going to be about one of them or the bartender Grant. So the way every episode goes down is Lily reads a fact, the couch debates amongst them who they think it's most likely to be. After some debate, they all make their guesses, and anyone who guessed right gets 1 point. But if the person whose secret it is has no one guess for them in the whole group, then they get 3 whole frickin' points. Now while that whole spiel makes it sound very gamified, it's honestly one of the coziest shows on Dropout. You get to see performers you love cutting back a little more, loosening up, and having fun with their friends as if they're at a bar. However, I have a death wish, so we're gonna get a little bit more into please don't kill me opinions. And that is that I think the newest seasons of Dirty Laundry don't quite have the sauce anymore. I think, at least for me personally, the appeal of the show has always been that you get to see your favorite comedians cutting back, opening up a little bit more, seeing them more as real people instead of performers. And my take would be that when you lose the knowledge of them as a performer, the appeal of seeing that looser version of themselves isn't quite there. And I think the difference between couches I have liked versus haven't liked is just if I've seen them perform before. It doesn't need to be a lot, but I would like to know why I should care about them as a comedian. And I know I obviously care about everyone in some general sense, but when it's a show about getting to know people better, I'd like to first know them in the first place, I guess. I'm sure everyone that's appeared on the show has been a good performer who is worthy of my time and attention. I just think if there was some sort of system of like, they gotta go on Smarty Pants first, or they gotta go on Very Important People, although Very Important People seems to be where they're sending like the big guests now, so I don't know. I love this show, so I'm still gonna say a 7.5 out of 10. I would have said an 8.5 out of 10, but the last 2 seasons have kind of dragged it down a little. Oh, Make Some Noise. What can I say about a show as perfect as you? So Make Some Noise came out right about the same time as Dirty Laundry, and I was originally going to say that it was the first spin-off of Game Changer, but I learned recently that there was actually a spin-off of an episode in the COVID season that became Dirty Laundry.
Now, you've all shared with me some remarkable anecdotes about yourself that I don't think many people know. See if you can guess which one of your fellow players the following statements are true about, but it's Mafia rules. So if it's true about you, adamantly deny it.
And of course we can't talk about Make Some Noise without talking about our founding fathers.
And now the players start to realize why I've brought them in particular here today.
Oh. We know all the animals.
We know all the animals.
God bless Zach Oyama. And the format does change a little bit in the spinoff. The point system that we saw in the first few episodes of Game Changer is gone. And while I am a fan of competition and points myself, I do understand the change. Because with normal episodes of Game Changer, it can be like, you did the thing, here's the point. It makes some noise, it's just sort of whatever Sam likes best. So why not have the end of the day just be the winner decided by who Sam liked best? But honestly, the point system works so well with those three because Josh and Brennan are super competitive and Zach's just happy to be there. I don't think any improv really benefits from awarding points to one person over another by who was funnier. The way it works on a technical level is that it has 3 rounds. Round 1 is individual prompts for them, round 2 will be duos that they rotate, and round 3 is just a big old orgy. At the time of filming this, season 4's finale actually just released, which is crazy because I remember when it first came out and we were like, holy shit, we're getting like 52 weeks of Make Some Noise. I miss that. I think I can confidently say that I do think this show has gotten better with time, especially the episodes where you get people who have done it a few times or people who are just really good comedians in general, because basically every prompt ends up becoming a 2 to 3 person scene anyways. Even in the first round, whenever they introduce a character or anything, the other people are just hopping in to play and further the plot.
The guy who works at NPR's Tiny Desk is just trying to get some work done.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's gonna be
sunshine.
Because we got a second one. But first, the basics. Played by Ear is a musical improv show, consistently featuring Jess McKenna and Zach Reno. The show was born out of maybe the most famous episode of Game Changer to exist at this point, which was, of course, Welcome to Mountport.
And when I hit that home run off my own pitch, then everyone will see this is a brand new situation.
And we're just gonna go ahead and put another bottle of lightning right on the shelf, because they did it for a third time, baby. If you haven't seen Welcome to Mountport yet, I don't know how. Legit, I think you could show that episode to anyone, Dropout or non, and they would enjoy it. Anyways, after they made Welcome to Mountport, it just went so viral on TikTok. I'm like 75-80% sure that the reason I got a Dropout account in the first place was because I had seen clips of this on TikTok and I wanted to watch it. So, obviously, Dropout's going to capitalize on it and end up making a full show. And we're going to take a quick safety pause to say that these are my opinions and my opinions alone. If you disagree, that's totally okay. My take is that I don't like Emmanuel. I don't know if it's just because of like the dirty laundry issue where because I haven't seen him in anything before, it feels out of place for him to be there. Fully just my take, but there's something about him to me that doesn't mesh within the Dropout universe super well. He's a really theater guy. I think something that gets discredited often is part of the magic of Mountport was Sam's reactions.
Don't ask me.
Don't ask me. You can ask me. Get back inside. Okay. Holy shit.
We get a lot of points.
Yeah, put the points in. Holy shit.
I don't know, I think a part of the appeal was seeing Sam Reich, someone who is clearly a very talented host and cares about theater and art, but isn't giving like mad theater vibes, if that makes sense. He's giving like theater adjacent, if you know what I mean. I think it's important to remind everyone, I am a theater kid. I think he's doing a good job overall, not a great job. But I think especially in season 1, it's nowhere near enough to ruin my experience of the show. I still watched every episode in the first season, because I think the structure does build on Welcome to Mountport, in the sense that they had prompts about what the songs wanted to be about, where the plot went, those sort of things. But then in season 2 and beyond, I think they chose to make it more traditional improv, where they sort of get to decide to take the story anywhere, which might lead to the question, what's the purpose of the host anymore? And I have the same one. He gives essentially silly little scene suggestions to add in, like,
I'd like this next scene to include someone who's hiding some very obvious plastic surgery. For this next scene, I want to see something that undoes what we learned in the original trade school musical. Whatever this next song is, I just want to make sure it incorporates lots of hot takes you have in real life.
And I know for a fact that people disagree with me here. I think this format change was ultimately really devastating because the plot doesn't go anywhere now. And obviously the plot is not the main appeal of an improv show, it's the humor. But for me personally, I thought that a lot of the humor came out of them trying to figure out how to fudge into the scenes that they were being given.
At first, no one recognizes our anti-hero. Well, until the anti-hero does that unmistakable thing they always do.
Sorry, I need to remove this cloak.
Oh, really?
Oh
Oh my god, that's so you.
So you remember me, do
Yeah,
you?
there's legends about a man that would take down his cloak and go,
They could take it any direction they wanted, but they still had to hit that plot beat, which allowed us to have a continuously established storyline running through. And you might disagree with me, but I watched most of season 2, and almost every single episode, it took about 20 minutes of like a 40-minute episode till anything actually happened. Like the one animal style in season 2, that's a great example. I clocked it, and I specifically remember 33 minutes passed before anything had happened to them plot-wise. And in my opinion, the best part of the show was like a little bit after that, Emmanuel gave them a suggestion to have a fighting mom and dad in the scene. And so Jess and Ross end up doing this like silly, emotionally charged scene about parents who lose their kid.
The walls that you built are too high for me to ever climb. Where are you? Let let me back into your mind. But let's have this out in a way that's small. It should happen soon. A way that no animal here could do, unless they're a raccoon. And I kept on working, and they kept on fighting, and the mood was tense like a storm. You could hear the lightning crash.
And they end up incorporating those characters throughout the rest of the thing and making the plot about finding the kid.
Thanks, animals. Hey, is there anything I can do for you once I get out of here?
Oh, yes.
We need you to merchandise our phrase. But we still want what we've created here to spread the world. And so if you could do it through, I don't know, t-shirts, pins,
Cups, water bottles,
backpacks, tote bags, bucket hats.
birthday postcards.
A series of posters.
I mean, in order to do that, you'd need someone who is really skillful in intellectual property law, like a patent attorney.
But my dad's a patent lawyer.
Perfect.
And there he is. My dad! That's my lord! My dad! My mom! Scott, I got poisoned, but it's my fault.
Just feels like they're all so desperate for any sort of plot decision to be made, but it's such a big thing to determine the whole plot that none of them want to make it. So instead, we just end up spending 30 minutes singing silly songs about characters that are funny but ultimately inconsequential, and then in like the last 10 or so, we wrap it up with some random storyline. I don't know, I'm rambling about this because I really do love this show, and I loved the first season, and I'd love if we could go back to that somehow. And I think it's important to talk about that this show might have been canceled. Dropout released a video of what they had coming up in the year a few months ago, and Play It By Ear was nowhere to be seen. I'm hoping that what they're doing is just taking some more time, redeveloping, seeing what makes this show actually great. But as more time has gone on, I just don't know if they're going to be bringing this one back. As much as I'm complaining about it, I think it would genuinely be a huge loss if they did cancel this show. But we got a list to do, and we only got a few more, so let's keep moving. Let's give this one a 7 out of 10. It would have been like an 8.5 out of 10 if it was just the first season, but reasons discussed. See above. Now, if you're just like a freak for college humor history, then you might have noticed that I excluded one show earlier in the video. The show was called Hello, My Name Is, featuring Josh Rubin, and the reason I don't mention it is because it's essentially just a precursor for very important people. I use the word precursor and not reboot because reboot feels wrong, because the show only starred Pat Casels and Josh Rubin, where Josh was the one being put into different SFX get-ups each episode, while VIP on the other hand is hosted by Vic Michaelis, but features a rotating guest every episode. It also is fun because the comedians don't know what they're gonna become, so they just sort of sit there and open their eyes and they're this. Vic is just a powerhouse of an improviser, and for this show, the character that she's developed is just... The best way I can describe it is if a 70s newscaster got teleported to today, and they just sort of had to keep going. It's an amazing balance between playing both the controlling boss and the completely disrespected host of the show.
To break this before PBS does, because they're on our ass, okay? So we can go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and hurry up.
We should sit together at lunch. Normally I got the table, and I think we should sit together, right? Just like hang out, chit chat, get to know. Okay, and so I'll see you there.
And you can even see online people have begun to start to get attached to the lore of the show. Vic is clearly an insanely talented host, one who brings out the best out of performers who are on the show.
Like, when they reached out and they were like, here's the idea, we'll put you in really cool makeup, I was originally like, I want to do that just because I want to do that. Right. But I was also like, it might not be great, I might not feel super comfortable. Wow. And then they were like, oh, but Vic will be the host. And I had never met Vic before, but I'd seen a bunch of their work, and I was like, okay, yeah, I trust them with my life. Like, they will be, they are so spot on.
Some performances are top tier, but there's really no bad ones. So we're just gonna stick with a good old-fashioned 9 out of 10 on this one. So I think we're at a point in Dropout history where they've really honed in on the 3 elements of what makes a good Dropout show. And number 3, Jacob Wysocki. That last one might be biased, I don't know, that might just be me. And I mentioned this because Smarty Pants checks all these boxes. Essentially, if you've ever heard of like PowerPoint presentations, it's that. They have 3 people perform these PowerPoints per episode, with about 9 other people in the crowd. Anyway, besides the point, 3 people go up and give a presentation on literally anything they want.
When is the happiest birthday?
Which cryptid is the chillest to blaze with?
A case for eggs.
No thank you, the ocean. We don't know what's in there, and we shouldn't find out.
We must revive swing again.
Birds.
Oh,
Why they might steal your girl?
Even after the presentations, it's really good because we have the audience doing a Q&A with them, which is where we get some really great moments.
The thing I don't understand about the sperm is, with it being that size, is it still painful to come?
It would feel really good, definitely.
Got it. Okay.
It wouldn't be constantly wriggling around and swimming in your balls like your current disgusting balls that we all have.
Don't do that to me.
The sperm would be created right before ejaculation. Boom, it would come out, wriggle out like a snake. Boom, you could catch it, it would flop around, you could dangle it.
So you're saying that immediately after ejaculation, a wriggling worm fish of a sperm comes out of your penis straight into the vagina, and now it is your job to, in your words, fish it out.
When it grows immediately before ejaculation, won't that stretch you out uncomfortably?
It would feel good.
Okay.
All of this mess hosted by Rekha Shankar. As I talked about a little earlier in the video, I think Rekha is amazingly funny, and I think her earlier shows just didn't get to show off her skills quite as well, but this show feels so her. It feels intellectual and dumb at the same time. It's right in that sweet spot, but I do think she really nailed down her hosting style with this show. So we're gonna go ahead and give this one an 8 out of 10 for now, baby. So Thousandaires dares to ask the question, how would you spend $1,000 with friends if you could? And that absolutely taps into like some deep-seated want in everyone's brain to be able just to go buck wild for the stupidest reasons. Essentially every episode there's a group of 5 or 6 people, and there's a new host actually from that group for every episode. And I think it's interesting because it allows the host to also spend this money and get to experience it, rather than if it were like hosted by Sam, where it would feel like he's benevolently chucking hucks of $1,000 at them. So yeah, everyone gets to spend $1,000 in whatever way they want. It can be for them, it can be for the group, it can be for a charity, it could be burned in a pile, and no one did that, and I thought it would have been kind of funny if they did. I don't know, because then you can always donate it. I just want to see like money being set on fire. I don't know. Okay? I don't know why. And the Dropout cast does not disappoint in the choices for how they spend the money.
I spent my $1,000 on a 5-person dress we can all get inside and hang out in.
A drag performance.
On goth makeovers.
Building a music competition reality show.
Pinatas!
I think similar to Smarty Pants, this just shows that Dropout is not really running out of steam on ideas anytime soon. I was thinking that they would just kind of consistently make Game Changer spin-offs until that burned out, but even before then, they've hopped ship and just made completely original ideas. I think it's very similar to the Dirty Laundry appeal, where we're getting to see the cast members in a more relaxed, open state. But in this case, instead of it being like it's at a bar, it's like it's at a sleepover and you're 12 years old. Above all else, I think it's, as I mentioned, wish fulfillment fantasy of sorts. We would all want to get to do this in real life, but spending $1,000 on something stupid is stupid, so we don't. So it's really fun to get to watch them live out this fantasy, because they all make great choices with it. Either way, the first season was awesome. I'm really excited to see where it goes. The crazy part is I almost forgot about it because I'd written the script a little bit ago, and the show run was so short that it almost blended in a little bit. I don't know. Let me know if you relate. I'm feeling a solid 8 out of 10 on this one. Anyway, next. Gastronauts is essentially a reality cooking show where the whole bit is that the tasks these professional chefs are being given are by these stupid dropout comedians. And if you're thinking with cooking competition Gordon Ramsay, go more in the direction of like Netflix. It's hosted by Jordan Myrick. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. And the structure is that we get a rotating cast who each comes in with a specific cooking challenge of their preference.
Can you cook me a dish that embodies these two things I love, being dry and tuna?
Can you make me a savory float in a challenge that we're calling the Savory Float?
And that's why I'm asking you, chefs, to use ingredients bought from this vending machine to create something that would have made that 5-hour experience a little nicer. This is the Ever Vending Story.
Grant, what do you have for us?
Horniest.
That's it? Chefs, you have your challenge. It's simply horniest.
And listen, you may call me hypocritical because Jordan hasn't been on a Dropout show before and now we're seeing her for the first time, so shouldn't I dislike her? And maybe, but I don't. Listen, here's my take. The reason Jordan feels so natural is 1, she fits in really well with the Dropout cast, but 2, they were on Good Mythical Morning a whole bunch, and I think the Venn diagram of Dropout fans and Good Mythical Morning fans is just a circle. Anyways, it's a really good show. Honestly, the legit only complaint I would have about it is that I wish the prize was a little more significant.
It'll be worth it. One of you will win an actual, literal, real-life piece of the moon.
I don't need like a $5,000 grand prize or whatever, but just like a piece of the moon is something you would probably just pass up at a NASA gift shop. Other than that, I think it's great so far. I think it could potentially suffer from having comedians on it that we aren't familiar with. I don't know. In my opinion, the best place to introduce comedians to us is Make Some Noise, but maybe that's just me. I think this show, I think it deserves a 7.5 out of 10. I would say 8, but I think there's just things to be improved on. It can drag in places. Overall is a very good show. Could be improved upon. I started this video out of pure curiosity. The fact that this company that has existed for basically as long as I've been alive is now one of my favorite platforms on the internet. I mean, they've been around for pretty much the entire history of the internet. They've lived through every single phase of what being a content creator meant. From early blogs, to sketches that they posted on the blog, to then YouTube sketches, to then producing shows for YouTube, to then releasing something on the 3DS for some reason again. They have quite literally done it all. And while these are technically the same company, they're also not at all. But they also are. I mean, you can see so many faces even just from the late 2000s that you still love and see today on Dropout.tv. Which leads us to the question at the core of this video. How are these companies different? In what ways are they actually kind of similar? And why is this important to the history of the internet and content creation as a whole? When it comes to their differences, there's one that's pretty glaring. Capitalism. I see from the best information I could gather, just saw the company as a way to make profit in entertainment in a rapidly evolving online content creation landscape. Because they didn't know where content creation was going to end up, and maybe short-form comedy is the billion-dollar moneymaker. The company is an investment that you are looking to get a return on. That's unfortunately how most companies these days treat art. But what really stuck out to me is, despite this, the energy in a lot of the early College Humor videos is similar to that of Dropouts even. It's pretty evident even in a lot of the early sketches that the focus was not on profit, but on individuals amplifying their own creative voices. The energy never really feels like how do we make this show successful, but how do we help each other succeed as artists. And that doesn't really jive with a parent company that solely sees the shows as investments. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that that direction seems to have consistently come from Sam Reich. Even in the College Humor era, he was the creative director of Dropout as a whole. And you can clearly see in interviews talking about the company when it went under, or just talking about what it was like to work there in general, artists felt supported. They felt like Sam had their back, and I think you can see that in the risks they take with their shows. Because as I was saying, parent companies don't really care about creativity. They care about profit. It's why streaming, which used to be a much more cool, communal, small film distribution platform, has now slowly morphed into cable 2.0. And even if a show has a strong, dedicated fan base nowadays, it's going to end up getting cut after one season just because it's not doing like Stranger Things numbers. And this corporate oversight makes it hard for us to want to care about anything that we're watching. And I think we, as consumers, feel just a slog of numbness at not being able to really care about the art that's getting put out. We don't have control over whether the show continues or not, and even the people making it are losing control over the direction if it does go well. It makes it feel like this art is not worth caring about. Because the people in charge of making it, not the artists, but the funders, the producers, the studio, just don't care. So why should we? Why am I mentioning all this? Because in an era where it feels like profitability is so much higher valued than creativity, where it feels like artists are being squeezed for every last drop of creativity they have in order to maximize a company's profit, Dropout feels different. It is farm-to-table comedy in a weird metaphor way. I recently watched the latest episode of Game Changer, the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire parody with Jacob Wysocki, and at the end of it, Jacob said something that I think encapsulates what I'm trying to say better than I ever could.
What would $100,000 mean to you?
It's a crazy question to answer. I've never had that much money before.
Yep.
It almost feels impossible to wrap my head around what that looks like. Yeah. I know for sure will give me security for a decent amount of time in which I can continue doing what I love to do, which is make people laugh.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that know exactly what they want to do, and I know exactly what I want to do, and that's make people laugh. And that's why this place is special. And with $100,000, I can make a lot of people laugh and make my own shit, employ my buddies to help me make my own shit. I really try and believe in DIY until I DIE, and that's gonna allow me to make some incredible art with incredible people, and I can take my good friends out at a nice tasty meal, or get all the tacos in the world that we can think of, or finally eat 100 burgers. But it's nice to feel like I found a home, and it really does feel like home here. And this is like the biggest gesture I think anybody could make, to be like, hey man, you're home, we see you, we value you, and we believe in you. And I've said for a really long time, we talked about it a lot coming up, you just need somebody who gets it. And I got Sam Reich.
Dropout feels like home. And I think for a lot of us who watch it in the least parasocial way possible, it feels like home for us too. A lot of us who enjoy the content likely grew up as artists, and when you're young, art is the most carefree, pure it could possibly be, because it doesn't exist within any sort of system of power or profit. And at least for me, Dropout gives me that feeling again, in a sense. You get to see people just come in and make the art that they want to make. And while profit is obviously involved, it doesn't feel like that's the goal. It feels like they're making it for each other and making themselves laugh and making art that they enjoy. And I think that's the through line in these 39 different shows we watched. But in a world where we are just flooded by parasitic, blood-sucking production companies that just see artists and their work as another line item that they want to squeeze every last penny out of, it is really refreshing to see a company that cares and cares about you caring. The one thing that is most important to take from this story of how College Humor became Dropout, that the best content is made by giving artists the space and the freedom to thrive. And I think we could use a lot more of that messaging in today's world. All right.